G'day, ZiggyD here with some pretty massive Path of Exile news. So the NDA on Reporter Fed news about the 1.0 launch of Path of Exile has been lifted, and we're starting to find out what's actually coming to the game at launch. And I'm pretty impressed. I didn't think it would be this big, or that this much new stuff would be coming. So we kind of knew some stuff like we'd be getting Act 3X, the extension to Act 3 with a new boss and some new zones and new tile sets and new mobs and things like that. But we're also getting a bunch of other really sick stuff. So the first really big piece of news is that we're getting a new class, the Scion class. Now, quite a while back, Chris and some of the other devs were kind of teasing us about the fact that there's this node in the middle of the skill tree, and I was pretty sure, that we would never get a class there. It was just a node that was left there. It's like an aesthetic thing for the tree. But it actually turns out that they're sticking a class there, the Scion class. Now, the problem with having a tree, a class in the middle of the tree like this, it's pretty hard to build a good build for that. It's not themed to anything, and it's kind of all over the place, and the nodes in the middle of the tree aren't that good themselves. But so, to counter this, newer players jumping into this new, very difficult and advanced class, they've instead made it unlockable after you defeat the game. So essentially you play through to the end of Act 3X, and you're able to free the Scion class from a cage, and then you have access to creating that class for yourself. So this is pretty interesting. Being smack dab in the middle of the tree means that this new class, she might be able to do some pretty interesting things, head off in multiple different directions. And something interesting that's been hinted at is that she has a unique skill. Now, it says some of the reports we've been getting is a unique skill to her. I don't know if that can actually be the case because of the way that skill gems work. I'm kind of thinking that maybe she starts off with a skill gem that isn't currently available in the game. So it's a new skill gem we're getting alongside this class. And it's basically a weapon throwing sort of skill. So that's pretty interesting. Allows you to throw your melee weapon and deal ranged damage with it at, sort of short to medium ranges, which looks pretty interesting. And it kind of looks like it's projectiles, so it should be modifiable by things like LMP, GMP, and Pierce, and things like that. So that should be pretty interesting. Should add a bit of diversity, and a pretty cool one to come alongside this new class. So this is pretty massive news. I didn't think we'd ever get a new class for Path of Exile, really. So having this new Scion class that's going to be very diverse in the builds that it can do well is going to be pretty interesting. And getting some new skills alongside her is also pretty interesting. So next up is a new type of gem we're getting. These are kind of support gems. They're called trigger gems. Now, it sounds like from what we've learned so far that these are a support gem, but you don't really link them to another skill. It sounds like what you do is you put them in a specific piece of armor or on your weapon, and then it gives you either an on-hit effect if you put it on your weapon, maybe your shield, maybe that's an armor, that counts as armor, but if you put it on an armor piece, you get an on taking a hit sort of effect. And these effects are like a small percentage chance for a certain effect to happen, like an explosion of fire or lightning bolts go out and attack foes. So this is kind of a new class of support gem that is a standalone unique sort of support gem, which this is pretty cool. A while back, I don't know who I was talking to about it, but we were kind of talking about the fact that, if you have a 5-link or 6-socket item, you have this extra socket, it'd be interesting to have a really good use for that extra socket to be able to, sacrifice maybe not linking all of your skills, not getting a 6-link on your weapon, but still having a really good on-hit effect or something on that weapon would be really cool. And it seems like we're getting that sort of thing. So this is going to add a bit of extra flexibility in how you build your characters, and having some on-hit and on-taking a hit sort of effects on your different weapon pieces and your weapon and your different armor pieces should be pretty exciting. So I'm keen to see how that goes. Now, next up, we have some new changes to some new mobs. Obviously, a lot of new mobs will be coming with the new content in Act 3X, but one in particular that's been pointed out that looks pretty interesting is one that's designed to counter ranged characters. Now, we kind of already have Lightning Thorn that is a pretty strong counter to ranged characters, but this is more of a direct, you have to get in melee range to fight these guys. Basically, they have a defensive bubble around them that means that you have to get into melee range to actually be able to hit them. If you're outside of that bubble and you shoot at the bubble, your arrows or whatever will deflect off that bubble, and they could even come back and hit you. So you have to get into melee range to combat these sort of enemies. And this adds an extra layer of diversity to combat, which is really cool. So I'm pretty excited to see those as well. We also have a bunch of new tile sets, and of course the new content, Act 3X with a new boss fight that from the screenshots that have been posted looks pretty interesting. I can't quite make out what the boss is going to be exactly, but the new zones and everything look pretty interesting. And we're getting into this sort of more unique Path of Exile theming that's been hinted at in some of the videos and things like that that have been done, but isn't really seen in the game. Currently, we kind of have this gritty survival island where there's like dead rising and things like that, but Act 3 is kind of getting us into this more mystical and magical, almost steampunky sort of environment, and that's kind of what the game seems to be moving towards in Act 3X, so the theming of that is really cool. Now, on top of this, we also have some new PvP. It sounds like there's going to be some sort of ranking and PvP tournaments added into the game, so people that are really keen on PvP and the lack of, advanced PvP in Path of Exile now should be pretty excited about that. And we're also getting guild support, finally. It's been something that Chris has been talking about for quite a while, and should actually be coming to the game, so you can form guilds, probably have guild chats, and, have this sort of connection and have a bit more of a community sort of base going on, which is pretty cool. I don't know if I'll form a guild. Maybe. We'll see what happens. I'll see what happens with that. Let me know what you guys think. Anyway, this is pretty huge new news. Obviously, we're going to get some new leagues and things like that when the game launches as well, and a bunch of new races and all that sort of jazz. But the addition of a new class and these trigger gems and things like that, I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for the launch of Path of Exile, and I didn't think I would be that excited. I didn't think we'd be getting that much cool new stuff. So, anyway, let me know what you think about all this. I'm ZiggyD, and thanks for watching.